Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome one, welcome all to Tickle On Movies. I'm your host, Brady Tickle, and today, naturally, since Halloween is only like 2 months away, we're going to be talking about scary movies. 2016 has been a scary movie renaissance. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that the genre that is usually the crap heap of the cinematic world has had critical hit after critical hit this year. Whether you're talking about 10 Cloverfield Lane, The Witch, Lights Out, or the most recent one, Don't Breathe, there have been some pretty good scary movies this year. So what are the common denominators here? What makes these movies so scary? More generally, what goes into making a good scary movie? Now, I believe there are three primary elements that go into making a movie scary. Element 1. Relatable characters. Sure, the 80s had its heyday of slasher flicks filled with barely clothed women and dumb jocks, but does anyone honestly remember these characters? No, we watch these movies for the villains, for the Jason Voorhees or the Freddy Kruegers, not for the characters. No one remembers them. Often we walked out of the theater not caring at all about the names of the disposable, often obnoxious teenage casts. Now, in stark contrast, this time period also saw the rise of Ellen Ripley, played by feminist icon Sigourney Weaver, kicking alien rear end and taking names in the aptly named Alien franchise. Ripley was smart, funny, strong, and above all, relatable. We could see ourselves in her shoes, and thus her predicaments were all the more terrifying. Steven Spielberg's Jaws also had great character work. Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, and Robert Shaw all played these characters that you could easily see yourself having a cold one with. Well, maybe except for Shaw, he kind of got intense about sharks, but other than that. As for newer scary movies, The Witch centered around a teenage girl just trying to grow up with parents who didn't fully understand her. We've all been in some similar situation at some point, so it's easy to sympathize with her when crap hits the fan. Don't Breathe centered around a girl just trying to get out of a bad living situation and a nice guy who wanted to be with her but was afraid of her uber-compensating tough guy boyfriend. Again, stuff's relatable. Finally, and probably the best example from this year, 10 Cloverfield Lane centered around three fully realized, well-fleshed-out characters. We had a funny redneck, a psychotic war vet, and a down-on-her-luck heroine. I mean, it's fantastic. You should watch it right now. So my main point here is that if we can relate to a character, we feel for them. We care about what's going to happen to them. Alright, we don't want them to die, and that builds suspense, which goes into my next point. Element 2. Suspense over scares. Now, there's a modern trend, cliche, in horror movies today that's more frustrating than it is scary, and these are jump scares. Now, for those of you who don't know, jump scares are accomplished by sudden, sharp music cues and things jumping out at you and going boo. It's sudden, there's no build-up, no suspense. In other words, it's not earned. It's cheap. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, the best type of scares are the ones that are built up over the course of the movie. These are the scares that work the audience, getting them into a fit of anxiety so that when something actually does happen, that anxiety explodes into genuine fear. Even if no major jump scare happens, the sense of dread and anxiety and unease that the best horror movies evoke are far superior to any sort of jump scare. In The Witch, we only see the witch twice. She's not what's scaring us. What's scaring us is the constant uneasy feeling that this film evokes. We're watching this family deal with the fact that their child has been kidnapped by something they don't understand, and they have no way of getting any kind of help. They're trapped in this isolated forest, and that whole uncomfortable dynamic of, you were supposed to be watching the baby. Why is it gone? That's what's driving the movie, and it's terrifying. It's haunting. It's a psychological thriller, and it doesn't rely on jump scares. Don't Breathe also has a steady stream of constant suspense and build-up. While these three young adults are wandering through the house of a homicidal blind man, which, trust me, is a lot scarier than it sounds, every noise they make is nerve-wracking because we know that there's a chance that that tiny noise they make, that breath, that pat on the door, the blind man could have heard it. And whew. Not to mention the camera work of this movie also helps create that suspense because we're constantly zoomed in onto a character's face or the top half of a character we can't see the periphery, so we don't know what's just around the corner. It's claustrophobic and it's unsettling. And if you'll indulge me, I do have to go back to Jaws because it is a perfect example of this. We don't get to see the shark until basically the final act of the movie. Now, this could partially be due to the fact that the crew couldn't get the shark to work on a technical level for a large portion of the filming, but it's still genius on Spielberg's part because for most of the movie we're left wondering what this monstrosity that's been killing these residents of this quiet town looks like. When the big bad shark finally shows up, it's in a period of comic relief. Roy Scheider is literally making a joke about Dookie. We're getting comfortable, we're sitting there, we're laughing, and then out of nowhere the shark just pops out of the water, scaring a whole generation of moviegoers from ever going to the ocean again, and leading to the infamous line, "You're gonna need a bigger boat." It's cinematic perfection. In summary, the suspense of not knowing is always more petrifying than any sort of jump scare a studio can cook up. As famous horror writer H.P. Lovecraft once wrote, the oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. Last but not least, we get to element 3, simple premise. 1973's horror classic, The Exorcist, will always scare the crap out of me. Whether or not you believe in demons and exorcisms and whatnot, the film is a terrifying ride. So what makes The Exorcist so great? Why is it that it can stand the test of time so well? Well, as stated, it has these 3 elements. The first being great characters. We have a priest who's unsure about his religion. That's relatable for anyone who's ever had doubt about religious beliefs. He's human. He's not this perfect preacher. It also, throughout the movie, builds up this constant, steady stream of suspense and eerie atmosphere. The score for this movie is haunting. And then, of course, the final element, we have the simple premise. A young girl is possessed by pure evil, the devil himself. It is truly gut-wrenching stuff, and it's made all the better because we don't get bogged down by heavy, boring exposition. We get right to the meat of the story, and we understand it on a basic, human, fundamental level. Tying it into 2016, Don't Breathe does this as well. It's just about 3 criminals who rob the wrong house. 10 Cloverfield Lane is about 3 people who are just trapped in a bunker and don't trust each other. The Witch is about a family isolated and just trying to deal with something they don't understand and are afraid of. And going back in time, Alien is just about a crew who's dealing with, you guessed it, an alien. Finally, Jaws, the cinematic masterpiece of 1975, is just about a shark that eats people. It's not much deeper than that. We don't need excessive backstory, we just need a simple premise or situation that would be scary to any rational thinking human being. It's not hard. So, thank you for watching my take on what makes a good horror movie. If you enjoyed this, you can also read my review of Don't Breathe, which is on the Collegiate Times website, along with my other articles, and hey, the Collegiate Times sponsors this show, so they got some good stuff. Check it out. It's worth a read. Also, if you're a fan of scary movies and horror genre stuff in general, Jaws is either on Netflix or coming to Netflix this month, along with 3 crappy sequels you don't need to watch, but, you know, the first one's coming and that's what's important. And also, if you have that Netflix account, you can check out Stranger Things, which is a fantastic horror show. I don't want to say too much about it, but you can read the Collegiate Times Lifestyle Editor's review of it. Again, links in the description below. Thanks again for watching. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, and if you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you.